Revelation 1787. From the 26th of January 1941. Internal rebellion against God. Domestic resistance. The inability to judge spiritual results is again a consequence of the inner rebellion against God. A person need by no means be a public God denier, and yet his inner feelings can be directed against everything that reminds him to believe in Him. For if his soul is still far away from God, it still carries the secret resistance within itself, although it entered embodiment on earth with the will to liberate itself from every form. This soul is still too much dominated by the demon, by its greatest enemy, who wants to win the being back for his kingdom. He rejects the soul against everything divine, as it were. He opposes it with the dazzling work of earthly life and tries to present the earthly path to it as the last stage of existence. And now the soul wants to use everything for earthly enjoyment. But the knowledge of God can only be gained by putting earthly enjoyment in the background. Man must despise the latter, and he must not become a slave to that which is part of God's counterpower. He must be able to detach himself from everything he loves and convey this to his fellow man in willingness. If he lacks it, only then will the influence of evil diminish, and thus also the aversion to the divine. An open denier of God can be countered even more easily by speaking openly about something he rejects. But to those who do not openly show their rejection, but carry it all the more stubbornly in their hearts, it is difficult to give instruction, for they will only rarely respond to it, neither affirming nor denying it. They will also, being under bad influence, think little about it. And for the sake of such people, God expresses Himself audibly, even if in a way that does not appeal to them. A natural event often gives even worldly-minded people cause for reflection. Sometimes they begin to think about the end result of their life, and the question arises in them, what is it all for? Without purpose there is nothing. What is the purpose of life on earth? And then a change of thinking can set in, because at the same time the inclination towards earthly good has become weaker due to the realization of the transience of what the work of destruction has brought them. For God's love seeks to win all His living creations for Himself and His kingdom, and anyone who does not recognize God's love in a carefree earthly existence has to experience hardship and worries in order to come to recognize what he has neglected to do. He has to transform himself and his thinking. He has to become love in order to be able to recognize the highest love. Amen.